If ever there was a year we needed Advent, this is the year. We hardly know how to describe the year we've lived through. We hesitate to reflect on all the mess around us in 2020. All we know is that nothing seems right. Nothing seems like it used to be. Nothing. We need Advent. The prophet Isaiah cried out for us, "Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down, to make your name known, so that the nations might tremble at your presence. So tear through the mess, O Lord, and come down to us again. We long to be your people, a people of hope." We light this first candle as a sign of hope. Hope that you can meet us even in the mess of our world. Hope that you still see us, though we feel we are lost in the rubble. That let this light be the guide that brings us to Emmanuel once more. It's good to meet with you on this first Sunday of Advent. Thanksgiving this year was certainly different, and that might be an understatement. Maybe Thanksgiving was different this year from any other year you can remember. Maybe you celebrated with a small dinner with only the people in your home. Or maybe you celebrated with a small outdoor dinner with family and friends. Or maybe your Thanksgiving celebration this year was a virtual one, with everyone eating in their own homes but connected together by Zoom. Masks, plenty of hand sanitizer, contactless delivery of ingredients, football games postponed or canceled, and shopping online instead of the Black Friday crush. Well, however you chose to celebrate this year, Thanksgiving is one of those opportunities that we have to connect or reconnect with the branches of our Christian family tree, people all around the table. I think of the stories they tell, like Grandpa Platel, who was one of the first CPAs, who reminded us every meal the only reason to have rolls on the table was to get the jam from the jar into your mouth. Or Grandpa Pospichel, who was an immigrant and a tool and die maker, and he always would say, "Save that last part over the fence for me." Well, imagine, if you would, what it would be like to get 42 generations of your family together all around the table. Just think of the stories they would tell. Well, after having celebrated an unusual Thanksgiving, this year we come to our gospel reading. And let's just say it's not a passage you hear very often. Might even say it's a weird place to start. I'm reading from the Gospel of Matthew, the first chapter, and I'm just going to read a bit of this. If you want to read it for yourself, you'll see why I've skipped what's in between. But beginning in the first verse, it says this: "This is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar." Then we skip to the 16th verse, where it says, "Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus, who is called the Messiah. Thus there were 14 generations in all from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the exile to Babylon, and 14 from the exile to the Messiah." Well, there you've got it. The first page, the first paragraphs of the good news of Jesus begins with a long list of names. Matthew gathers together all in one place a family tree. 42 generations worth, and all of them have stories to tell. Of course, there's Abraham, the one who was called to leave all that was familiar to him, all that named and claimed him, and to go where only God could lead him. He was blessed to be a blessing for the whole world. There's Abraham, and there's Isaac. There's Kings David and Solomon, but there's also cringeworthy King Manasseh. And when it comes to surprising details, maybe you noticed one, because Matthew chooses to add women. And when you look at the women he chooses to include, well, it's just plain weird. There's Tamar, who was a young widow, conveniently kicked out of the family, left to fend for herself, who takes initiative to be incorporated back into the family tree with a scandal. There's Rahab, a Gentile, an outsider, a prostitute. Ruth, an outsider, a foreigner, a stranger, a Moabite. Those folks are to be excluded from the people of God for 10 generations. And there's Mrs. Uriah, an Israelite who married an outsider, Hittite, and who was seduced by the king. 5 women. And all of them except Mary are Gentiles, outsiders. We might question their inclusion in this family tree because they definitely don't have spotless records, and there's plenty of evidence of questionable choices. It's more than a little bit messy and bumpy and even scandalous on the branches of Jesus' family tree. And any other year but this one, we might be tempted to skip right over all this weird stuff to get to the good stuff, the normal stuff, the expected parts of the story of Jesus. But in so many ways, this year invites us to slow down, to tune in, to hear the words of Scripture, even those that might sound odd to our ears, in all new ways. And when we do, we'll notice that this odd collection of characters are all a part of what God is doing in the world. It's a family tree filled with triumph and tragedy, joy and sorrow, peace and exile, lost and found. And God is at work in unanticipated, irregular, we might even say weird ways. It's a list of human beings, flawed, some deeply flawed, and all of them far from perfect. It's a family tree where outsiders are welcomed in, sinners are forgiven. A family tree with Jew and Gentile, male and female, saint and sinner. And all of them find their places on the branch of the Christian family tree, reminding us that God has and continues to work through ordinary people like you and me. There it is right at the beginning. Text we might be tempted to skip over, but it shouts the all-embracing love of God. All of us are welcome, loved, adopted into the family of God, adopted into God's future. You see, this list of names that we might skip over offers us a powerful reminder that the incarnation is wildly inclusive. God with us, Emmanuel, Jesus, a gift for the whole world. Blessings to you.